All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started as folks are still coming in and joining us here. It's great to be with you all tonight. My name is Dr. James Willette. I'm the Associate Provost and Dean of Students and Student and Campus Life here at Seattle University. And we're so glad that you've joined us for our webinar tonight, How We Support Our Students as Whole Persons at Seattle University. For tonight's webinar, we will be doing a brief overview of our webinar tonight, and then it says 6. I had 6 in my head all week. It's 5. We'll have some departments here from key student support areas at the university, offering a spotlight on their programs and services for just a few minutes each. And then we'll have a question and answer session towards the back half of our session tonight. We'll be collecting questions using the Q&A feature of the webinar. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A button. You're welcome to put questions in there throughout the presentation tonight. We'll answer some questions live while they come in, and then others will hold until the end of the session tonight. We've got about 8 colleagues with us tonight to share some information with you. There'll be slides with some of the info that they're sharing, and contact information for each presenter will be on the slides. And you're welcome and encouraged to reach out to folks if you have questions, especially if they're specific to your student, that we can answer for you while you all prepare for your students' transition to Seattle University in the fall. With that, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Like I said, I'm the Associate Provost and Dean of Students here at Seattle University. One part of my role is chairing our CARE team, which is a group of university staff who meet to talk about students who have been referred to our office who are experiencing barriers to their success and their academic engagement. And these barriers can be anything from an injury to mental health concerns, perhaps food insecurity, or an interpersonal conflict. Whatever it happens to be that might be standing in the way of the student's ability to be fully engaged and successful with us, my office is here to coordinate support for them. And so if at any time you have a question or a concern about your own student, you're welcome to reach out to me or really anybody on the panel today to talk about how we might be able to support your individual student through any trouble or barrier that they might be experiencing during their time at Seattle University. So with that, we'll transition to my first colleague, Dr. Chris Fiorello from Wellness and Health Promotion. He'll provide a summary of his office's programs and services, then we'll move through the rest of the panelists and then questions towards the end. Dr. Fiorello.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am so glad to be able to speak to you tonight. I work in the Office of Wellness and Health Promotion here at Seattle University, and our commitment is really to work with students and focus on helping them care for themselves while they're at college. We do this through evidence-based programs, and we have several areas of focus. Mental well-being, so how do students engage in good self-care strategies for their mental health? We also talk about alcohol, cannabis, and other drugs. We approach this from the perspective that students have choices around these, and we're hoping to reduce risk as students explore those choices. We also talk about healthy relationships. So not just intimate relationships, but also their relationships with their families. How do they establish new boundaries? How do they communicate with family members to make sure that they're really opening those lines of communication? Physical health, one of our key things in physical health, we talk about sleep. 2/3 of college students are sleep deprived, and we help students understand the mechanisms of sleep and why it's so important. And lastly, we also work with our food security initiatives. Actually, right outside the window, directly in front of me, is our brand new, really renovated food pantry on campus that all students can access, and we provide support through that. One of the greatest opportunities that we have within wellness and health promotion for students is to become a certified peer health educator with our team. We rely on peer education. We do it because we know it's effective, and our peer educators go through about 50 to 60 hours of training to educate on these topics, as well as to serve as peer emotional support. Next slide, James. In addition to that, we promote a lot of everything from services that the university has in general to events on campus. You will hear more about timely care as you continue to learn about the university. But I think it's one of the greatest services that we offer because it is telehealth and teletherapy that supplements our existing on-campus health services and counseling services, and has the benefit of being an after-hours service as well. In addition to that, we provide, in addition to educating about that, we also have educational events that we work with. See a picture of De-Stress with Dogs. Classically, this is everybody's favorite event. And we work on awareness months throughout the year, as well as various other events. And so, again, we're really just trying to help students understand how they can care for themselves at college. And that's it for me. I welcome your questions later.
All right, thank you, Chris. Next up, we have Danny Eagleton, our Director of Counseling and Psychological Services. Danny.
There we go. I'm now unmuted. I'm Danny Eagleton, and I am the Director for Counseling and Psychological Services here at Seattle U. Seattle U has a dedicated counseling center. All of our folks are licensed clinicians. We provide time-limited individual psychotherapy for undergraduate students and graduate students. We also help folks, since we're time-limited, we help folks also find off-campus referrals for folks who need ongoing care or specialized care. One of the things that we also provide in our office is urgent care hours. So people have the ability to walk in to be able to get services when needed. We do that every day during the week. Our services are free, as well as free for all of our students enrolled. All clinical services are confidential. No information is released without the student's consent unless required by law. We're very proud of the work that we do as a small counseling center, and we look forward to be able to provide any kind of support that we can for students as they do their work here at Seattle U.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Danny. Still navigating the buttons on Zoom here. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Tara Hicks, our Director of the Student Health Center and Medical Director. Tara.
Hi, thank you for joining us tonight. As James said, I am the Director of the Student Health Center and Medical Director. The Student Health Center is located in one of the residence halls, but it's accessible to all students, undergraduate, graduate, and law. We function like a primary care clinic, but we see people for more what college students are needing. We are staffed with nurse practitioners, board certified, and in Washington State, nurse practitioners have full autonomy, which means we can order labs, imaging, we can send in prescriptions, so can function for most the needs that a student would need. The other primary responsibility we have is for immunization compliance. The only immunization that's required for undergraduate students is proof of immunity to measles. We do recommend being fully vaccinated for all the childhood vaccines and for COVID, but the only one that is required is measles. And then I have a list I often get asked what things should my student bring to school with them. And this is a list of some of the things that I recommend. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you, Tara. Next, we're going to transition to Kim Thompson, our Senior Director of Disability Services. Kim.
Welcome, parents. I'm glad you could join us. I want to honor that you are embarking on as much of a transition as your students are. So you're doing the right thing by gathering all the information you can before you make that transition. The Disability Services Office is charged with providing reasonable accommodations as provided for by state and federal disability law. We facilitate equal access to courses, programs, and activities through reasonable accommodation. That is really different than what your student has experienced probably in the K-12 system. And so some things I put on the slide that I want you to think about is the university fit is very important for students with disabilities. Some things to think about are, we are on the quarter system. Everything stops and starts in 10 or 11 weeks. And so pace is something to consider as you look at colleges with your student. Accommodations at the university are really different than accommodations in high school. Access is the goal when you reach the higher education system, as opposed to special education services, which are available in the K-12 system. So some of the accommodations that your student is used to receiving may or may not be a reasonable accommodation in the university system. Those IEPs and 504s don't automatically follow your student to the university, which doesn't mean we don't make a plan with them. We do. But we will need from you documentation other than the IEP and 504. We're happy to have those and look at those. They give us good collateral information, but we may ask you for the original documents that IEP or 504 in particular were based on. And from that, we have an access planning meeting with your student. We look at the documentation. We talk with your student about what their strengths and weaknesses are, and then we come up with an access plan that makes sense in the university environment and in the quarter system environment. So sometimes that means extra time on tests. Sometimes that means use of note-taking software or to be able to record a class. It typically does not include things like extended time on assignments. Students take 3 courses rather than the 6 they take in high school, and they are expected to meet deadlines in those 3 courses. Of course, there's always an exception to that. And so what I want to invite you to do before your student commits is make an appointment with me. I make myself available to prospective students and parents so we can talk about your students' unique needs and what accommodations you can expect when you arrive at Seattle U. So what I need you to do if you're thinking about committing is my contact information is on this slide. Give me a call. We'll set up an appointment and have a Zoom or in person. I know some of the folks in the audience tonight I've already met with. We've already had that conversation, but I really want to invite you to have that meeting with me prior to committing. I think that's it for me, James.
All right, thank you, Kim. As we continue tonight, I just wanted to remind folks that the Q&A tool is available in Zoom, and attendees will be able to see the questions that we're answering in writing throughout the session. So I encourage you to check that out. There's already been a couple of questions in there around health insurance, financial aid, and a couple others. So feel free to continue to ask questions. When we're not talking, we're looking at the question box and answering questions. And of course, we'll also answer any open questions at the end. All right, I'd like to invite Dr. Molly Collin, our Director of University Advising. Molly.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be with you here this evening. And I look forward to meeting some of your students once they arrive on campus, hopefully in the fall. Academic advising at the university is really built around a holistic understanding of every student. We really try to focus our advising on each student's kind of personal and professional goals and connect those personal and professional goals with their academics so that they see the connections between the university core, their major courses, any internships they want to do with where they want to get to and who they are as individuals. We also understand that each student comes in with their own unique academic experience and personal expectations. And so we try to work individually with students on making sure that they are prepared for their courses and that they're connecting to other resources, many of whom are also on the webinar tonight, to make sure that they can level up where needed to be successful here at the university and to support students when they're not being as successful as they want to be. All undergraduate students have an assigned academic advisor. We have both professional advisors and faculty members who are advisors on campus. Advisors are embedded in each school or college. They're connected to the students' majors so that they can be subject area experts on those specific degree programs. We also have the Academic Pathways Advising for Undeclared Students, which is a specialized program where undeclared students get specific coaching around discernment of their major and preparing for their major, completing the prerequisite courses that they need successfully in order to declare the majors they're aiming for. We also have specialized advisors who work with students who are part of the Matteo Ricci College, the Honors Program, Athletics, and the English Language and Cultural Bridge Program, so that they'll have actually more than one advisor, both a major advisor and an advisor in that program. So academic advisors are really here to assist the students with navigating their degree requirements. Students are still expected to read the catalog, to understand what their expectations are, to utilize My Seattle U and other resources available to understand their own journey. But advisors are here to kind of point out potential obstacles, shortcuts, and kind of be a guide, but not necessarily be the only source of information. So students are still expected to kind of understand their major and minor, and advisors are here to help them with course planning, applying any transfer credits they're bringing from Running Start or other community college or college opportunities, AP and IB courses, etc. Advisors will assist students with understanding academic policy, and then also really exploring opportunities, whether they want to do education abroad or an internship, and really kind of get the most out of their 4 years here at the university. And then also advisors are available to connect students with whether that's the Learning Assistance Program, the care team, and any of the other offices basically on this call. Academic advisors are a great kind of one-stop shop for connecting students with other resources around campus as well, because they have an individualized relationship with each student that they work with. The last thing I wanted to kind of indicate is what students can do, excuse me, to be successful in their academic advising relationships. Advising works best when advisors have an opportunity to get to know their students, to understand what their goals are. And so I would recommend that students are in contact with their advisor, responding to emails, connecting through meetings, and kind of being prepared for the meetings that they have with their advisors so that they can get the most out of those opportunities with advising. So that's kind of my area, and I will pass it on to my next colleague.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cullen. We're going to go ahead and transition to Angie Jenkins, our Director of Learning Assistance Programs. Angie.
Great, thanks, James. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. As James mentioned, my name is Angie Jenkins, and I am the Director of our Learning Assistance Programs Office on campus. Before I share some remarks, I always like to preface what I'm going to share by letting you all know that I'm encouraging your students to take full advantage of these resources that we have available. There are lots of resources being offered. However, the onus is ultimately on students to avail themselves of these resources. So we want to really encourage them to do that and share some, some tips about dispelling who uses these resources. So one of the common things that we hear in learning assistance programs is that folks feel like it's just for students who are having some academic challenges. And we always like to say that is not the case. These resources are available for students regardless of where they are on their learning spectrum of I'm really challenged by these courses, or I'm doing really well and I want to utilize resources to continue to do really well. So we want to dispel that myth about who it's for. It's for all students. Generally, it's for students. We offer tutoring in certain undergraduate courses, which I'll come back to in a second, but needing to pay attention to what those resources are and who they're available to. The other thing I want to mention is encouraging students to be proactive in accessing these resources, not waiting until they hit a road bump to say, okay, I'm going to go access these resources, but doing that proactively. So wanted to start with those comments. But the way I like to talk about our resources is looking at direct content support and strategy support. And the first portion, when we talk about content support, it's supporting students in their learning outside of the classroom, mainly in undergraduate courses. So the 1,000 and 2,000 level courses in the areas of languages, science, nursing, and math. And we do this in the form of either individual or paired recurring tutoring sessions. So students sign up for these appointments. They meet with a peer every week for the entire quarter. Some students, they really like to have that option available. So it's recurring, it's set, this is their dedicated time. They don't want to make that ongoing commitment. They can do a one-time tutoring session or drop-in tutoring appointment in specific courses. Sometimes students don't want to make that commitment. Instead, they want to just do a total drop-in environment where it's like, hey, if this time works for me, I'm going to do that. And we encourage them to learn in community. So the language conversation groups or the facilitated study groups are a great resource for them, where they're connecting with peers in the same courses to talk about challenges, to talk about what they're doing really well, and supporting each other in that learning. And so it's on a drop-in basis. So that's content support. If students are like, you know what, no, I don't need help with Spanish or with chemistry, but I need some help with some time management or note-taking skills, then we offer strategy support. And again, we do that in the form of one-on-one individual consultation appointments where they can meet with a learning assistance program's professional staff member to talk about what their skills are as a student, because we like to take a strengths-based approach, as well as what their challenges are going to be, because this is going to be challenging, right? It is college, so it is going to be hard. And we have resources to support them to navigate those challenges. So these appointments, some students do this, once a week or every other week or before a big exam. So it's just the cadence of those appointments depends on what students are seeking. So they can determine that. Again, sometimes students don't want to work one-on-one with us, but instead they want to be with their peers in a drop-in kind of situation. And so we offer learning strategy workshops where we have specific topics. We promote it to students across campus, and we open an instruction room and talk to students about these particular areas. So they come in, and again, the benefit, we always talk about learning in communities to see that, you know what, I'm not the only one that's struggling with this particular topic, or I have some great ideas that I can share with my peers. Let's do this together. So this learning and community piece is huge. And then lastly, we offer online resources. One of the tools that I like to talk about is something called the Learning and Study Strategy Inventory. And it's basically an opportunity for students to answer 60 questions that talks about what are my current habits as a student, so that it gives them a picture of what they are doing really well and what they need to work on. And then we'll connect with them to develop a plan to help them move through the challenges. And then available resources on our website. So I encourage folks to look through that. And if there are additional questions, happy to answer those. But we are here as a resource for students, and we strongly encourage them to use our resources. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Angie. All righty. Next up is Dr. Hillary Lichterman, our Director of Housing and Residence Life. Hillary.
Thank you, James. Hello, everyone. So glad that you are here. We are thrilled to have you as part of the Red Hawk community. So I have the pleasure of speaking briefly about housing and residence life. Always happy to answer additional questions. I always come to this space recognizing that when coming to college, there are typically a handful of things on your mind and students' minds, and that's, will I make friends? Where will I live? And will I fit in and like it there? So I recognize you may have a lot of joy as you think about housing and questions. We pride ourselves here on really thinking about this holistic student care, really starting from helping students make friends. That's a huge opportunity for everyone. We know that from decades of research that living on campus can help students significantly make more friends, better friends faster, but also have some tremendous academic gains. So that proximity to classes, that ability to pop over to the library, even to engage in clubs in the evenings and weekends, to have that right here on campus and to know that home is just a few steps away. Pardon me, I should say home while away at school. But also that convenient access to food, to other resources on our campus. We have a beautiful campus. It's a pretty contained, wonderful kind of oasis in the middle of Seattle here. So living on campus for us really symbolizes a special signature experience. We do have a variety of staff members. We think about this 24/7 wraparound attention and belief in what is going on here in the communities. We have traditional resident assistants, full-time staff, graduate staff, resident ministers, Jesuit and residents. It's really lovely. So next slide, please. We do have a 2-year live-on requirement, and I'll touch briefly on that. The 2-year requirement, which is one of the many reasons I came to work here, is it provides just not only a beautiful foundation for our students to transition, but also that accompaniment and success even into that second year, which again is still a critical time, as are all 4 years. But we think about this in the phrase we like to call the Red Hawk residential experience. Some campuses have traditional learning communities that have a theme or maybe cluster students by academic major. Here at the present time, we're taking more of a holistic approach that every student who lives on campus should have the same access and same opportunity to all of these unique benefits and resources and interventions and programs. Thus, we don't at this time cluster by major or specific other categories. This Red Hawk residential experience prioritizes everything I talked about with friendships, understanding how to ask for help, learning for the first time maybe how to make an appointment at CAPS, or participating with members of your community for learning assistance programs. There's a QR code here, which we'll make available later as well. This is a wonderful guide for you. Admissions will also be sending this out. I think they may have already. In that document, you will find important dates, amenities, things to bring, not bring, how the halls are set up, how to apply for housing. We hope that it's a helpful guide. I will mention that the housing application will open on May 6th, so no worries, still plenty of time, and it will close on June 1st. Because we want every student to have an equitable opportunity, we do not make assignments based on a first come, first serve approach. That is done very differently because we want all of our students to come and to hear their voices and how they rank their communities and so on and so forth. I'll leave it there for now. I think the one piece of advice I would offer for our students, for our supporters, is to really give that lovely, loving nudge to say, hey, get involved, go to those events, go meet your RA, read the bulletin boards, because while we're not perfect, we're always trying to improve. We try to be very attentive to what students need and want while they're here on our campus. So I will leave it there.
Righty. Thank you, Dr. Lichterman. And last but certainly not least, we have Laurie Prince, our Director of Parent and Family Engagement. Laurie.
Thanks, James. If you could. Welcome, family and supporters. We are really thrilled to have you here with us today. And if you can't remember anything else you hear tonight, hopefully this is the office you'll remember to reach out to. Universities are certainly in the last 10 years or so really coming to terms and understanding about how important you are as a resource and for support for your student. So many campuses have created these offices geared towards assisting you in supporting your student and understanding the university environment. So that's what my office is all about. We want to keep you engaged with what's happening on campus. We will send you a monthly e-newsletter kind of highlighting things that are coming up. I know I frequently put in special dates around advising or special programming. Learning assistance programs are always in there so that you can nudge your student towards utilizing the variety of resources we have on campus. You won't get everything, but what we consider to be kind of the critical things at that point in the academic year as the rhythm changes of what's important in May versus, maybe February. We will try to do some educational webinars like this for you so you can learn about the resources in a little bit more in-depth time. Over the years, we've done things on housing, or Molly did an advising one in the fall for folks, that kind of thing. And, we are certainly thankfully out of the COVID emergency level kinds of things, but when things rise to that level, if they do again, my office will share communications with you, frequently sharing what we've shared with with your student, so that you're aware of what's happening on campus. We also coordinate a program to really invite you back to campus if your student's here in the fall. We have a family weekend program online with our homecoming time where we would invite you to come back to the university and get a sense of the campus through your students' eyes. This is a session for families of first-year students or entering students. So, when you drop them off, it's still unfamiliar territory to the students as well. But if you come back for family weekend, they've lived here for a little bit now and can kind of give you a different sense of how they're engaging in life at Seattle U. If you are a Facebook person, we have a Facebook group for families for some parent-to-parent communication. We know students don't use Facebook as much anymore, but many family members still do. So we invite you to join that. And you can even do that at this time before your student arrives at Seattle U if you're so interested. My office also does a bit of outreach for our students who are parents. We have graduate students and a number of adult undergraduate students who may have their own kids. So I do a bit of that, but my primary focus is on really making sure that parents of our undergrads have a good sense of what's happening here. And as I said, if you don't know where to start, or if you don't remember anything from the presentation tonight, even though we're recording, please reach out to me at parents@seattleu.edu or give a call. My job is to really know as much as I can about the university, and if I can't answer the question, to get you to my colleagues who are experts in these areas. So we want you to be engaged. Your parenting role is changing as your student enters college, but it is certainly not ending. So please know that you are considered part of our expanded Red Hawk family. Thanks, James.
All right, thank you, Laurie. All right, then, we're going to go ahead and move to the Q&A portion of our session tonight. Let's navigate here. Several of the questions you've asked, they've been great questions, have been answered. So again, you can access the answered questions in the Q&A feature. And then there are some that we'd like to go ahead and answer live for you here tonight. And the first question I'm going to ask is for Danny, our Director of Counseling and Psychological Services. Danny, I'm wondering if you could talk about what advice you might have for parents of students who are already engaged in treatment for mental health concerns, especially those who are not right here in the Seattle area.
Yeah, thanks. That is a great question. It's a question that comes up a lot for us as we're working with students here in CAPS. What I recommend for folks is that if they've already been seeing someone for therapy and that particular therapist is not licensed in Washington State, what I really want people to do is to make sure that students can talk to us if they come to see us about what it is that they were working on in therapy so that we can help them. What tools did they use? Or were they taught by their therapist so we can also help them? Also, when people are taking medication, we want them to make sure that they have the ability to get refills at the local pharmacy. So to change up their script to something that's local to them so they can access that. We have a variety of different things that we can hold people with. When we talk about urgent care, that means that people can come in, even if they on their break are going back to see their therapist or psychiatrist. we encourage them to be able to connect with us and to also check in with us. We want to be able to be there in person for them if we can. We have a lot of people who, again, they go back on their break and they connect with their therapist or they connect with their psychiatrist. We want to make sure that they reach out to us if they need to. We definitely have students that do that, that know something's not feeling right, I'm not feeling right, and I'm just coming in to see if I can get some help. We definitely want to encourage that and want people to be able to do that.
All right, thank you, Danny. The next question is for Hillary about housing. There's a couple of questions that came in. One was about the more information about what our 2-year residency requirement is. And a related question, if the housing application closes on 6/1, will students who have not yet committed until 6/1 have options for housing? So I'll let Hillary dig into those questions a little bit for you.
Yes, excellent questions. Thank you. In the Guide to Living, there are more specifics about both of these, but I'll hit the highlights. Happy to answer any questions, but do feel welcome to check that out. In terms of the exemption, the housing requirement, given what we know in higher education and particularly on our campus about the educational, social, academic gains of living on campus, our campus has a typical 2-year live-on requirement, meaning first-year students and second-year students live with us. We typically are a little bit more flexible for transfer students after that second year. We do recognize that some students live right here in the vicinity, and we don't want living on campus to be a barrier to coming to Seattle University. So typically we stay within a give or take 20-mile range of the campus, but we're certainly happy to discuss that one-on-one with you if you have questions. So that references the why behind the requirement and a little bit about that. We also have information on our HRL website, which is featured there on the slide, as well as if you go to the Seattle U website and type in either Housing and Residence Life or HRL, our page will come up right away, and we have some good information there. Yes, after June 1st, students can still apply. We do guarantee housing for first and second year students because of that exemption. We do ask, and we kind of beg, that you try to get that in by that time, because we really prioritize hearing from the student what is important to them. On that form, you'll see, excuse me, some ranking of the communities, what's important, roommate interests, so on and so forth. And so we just ask to try to stick as close to that as possible. I hope that helped.
All right, thank you, Hillary. There's a great question in the box right now about our Jesuit Catholic identity here at Seattle University, and a student coming in maybe being a little bit nervous about what it's going to be like. And one thing I'll share with you is that when I applied to work at Seattle University about 13, 14 years ago, one of the questions I had was very similar. What's it going to be like on campus at Seattle U? I'm an out gay person who grew up Catholic, so I've got my baggage. And what I quickly realized is, yes, we are grounded in the Jesuit Catholic tradition, which is a very particular way of orienting ourselves towards education. And we're proud of that identity, but also we're an incredibly inclusive campus. To answer the question a little more specifically, only about 1/3 of our students identify as Catholic. And the majority of our students identify with a different religion or no religion. And we really try to attend to the spiritual development of all of our students, regardless of their faith identity, through things like retreats, through conversations around meaning making, through reflection. And so those aspects are certainly highlighted in the classroom and on our campus. A couple of the key components of Jesuit education that have really kept me here at Seattle U are, one, care. This is what we're talking about tonight, but care of the whole person, and really seeing students as whole persons who are bringing their entire selves to us, and not only attending to their intellectual development, but their personal, spiritual, and other kinds of development as well. And so I think your student would find that this is a very open campus where we want to engage in difficult topics with one another. There's no proselytizing, no required services or anything like that. It's really about how we educate students. And at the same time, you know, we have a chapel on campus, there's the occasional cross, and so we are a Catholic university. But I think that we do a great job of sort of navigating having students who are not Catholic, and many faculty and staff are also not Catholic on our campus. And if any other panelists want to jump in on that, be happy to hear your perspectives as well.
I'd be happy to share, James, since, yeah, I've been here for a very long time, and I would concur with what you said. We have students, faculty, and staff of all faiths, no faiths, and I think the focus is on who are you as a human being in a world that's greater than yourself, whether that's with spiritual connection, or just how you see your place in the world. But we know people are multidimensional, and the spiritual component is one of those things. But I think what our last president, who was a Jesuit priest, said that has always stuck with me. He said, my feeling is, if a Muslim student becomes deeper in their faith while they're here as a student, we've done our job. It's not to convert them to any sort of particular religion. It's for them to find a deepening of their spirit, whatever that may be. So I think that feels like it resonates like for our students of all faiths or no faith, and that exploration of the world as something greater than just your individual self guides, I think, most of what we do, if that makes sense.
Laurie.
James, I'll also just share
Sure.
quickly. In spite of the Italian last name, I am not Catholic, nor was my father or mother. But what I found that I love about Seattle University is that it is a place where folks can bring their authentic selves. So if your authentic self is someone who is guided by spirituality, guided by religion, we have an amazing campus ministry department, and I really prefer to call it campus ministries because it ministers to many different faith traditions, and those without faith often find homes. And many of the retreats are about finding purpose and finding oneself, which I think is an absolutely incredible experience for students. And so the community as a whole is open and embracing to people getting to know and understand themselves as sort of a central piece of student experience. And that's what I see resonated. And so whether someone has a faith tradition, doesn't have a faith tradition, what they're going to find is that a community, so long as they practice being open and accepting themselves, they're going to find a community that is open and accepting to them.
Thanks, Chris.
James,
go ahead.
I had a follow-up because I clicked the wrong button and wasn't able to answer it, wasn't able to type my answer. The question was, do you honor accommodations that our student had in the Seattle colleges as a Running Start student? And the answer is much like the answer I gave about the high school. It's helpful information for us, but one institution doesn't dictate accommodations at another institution. So again, helpful information may or may not be the same accommodations, and I invite you to email me or call me, and we will set up an appointment to talk about it.
Thanks, Kim. My next question is for Molly. Molly, there's a question here that asks, do students meet with their academic advisor on a regular basis, or only when a student reaches out and schedules an appointment?
Thank you. Yes. So in the first year, we do expect all students to meet quarterly with their academic advisor. Some of that is kind of getting accustomed to the systems and making sure all of the questions are answered, but also making sure that students are kind of on the right track and kind of developing a 4-year plan for their academic journey at the university. So yes, in the first year, students coming in this summer We'll meet with their advisors over the summer to register in kind of a group workshop setting, just because we have so many students coming in and we want to get everyone through registration quickly. And then beginning fall quarter, students will sign up for individual meetings with their academic advisor. They'll have a requirement to get what we call an education plan approved for the courses they intend to take for winter quarter, and so on and so forth through that first year. At the same time, students are always welcome at any time to make appointments with their academic advisor in order to ask questions, in order to think ahead. I strongly encourage students not wait to the last minute before registration starts to try to get in to see their advisor, because their calendars are going to fill. So the early bird gets the meeting, as they say. So it's really important that we also will have drop-in hours in each of our advising centers. So if you don't get a personalized appointment, you can pop in for drop-ins. We will definitely meet with everybody prior to the registration, but getting in early before registration starts is always helpful for us in our calendaring. So yes, in the first year, every quarter, meet with your advisor. After that, students will have the option and can connect with their advisor at any time.
All right. Thank you, Molly. I'll just make a quick note that there have been several questions about getting access to the housing webinar recording. And if you want to go, if that's something you'd like to get a copy of, Hillary's making a list. So feel free to throw your email into the Q&A and Hillary will follow up with you to make sure that we get you that recording. All right, I'm going to throw two more questions out. The first is for Angie over Learning Assistance Programs. And the question is, if I'm a parent of a student who I think could benefit from learning assistance programs, but they seem hesitant to reach out to LAP for assistance, how could I encourage them to take that step?
Great question. So I would say a couple things. First is if you want to reach out jointly. So I've had that happen often where in the very first, you can make an appointment just to inquire, ask some questions and gather more information and do that together. In that scenario, I usually address the student directly because I'm wanting to empower them, but know that having a supporter there in the process would be helpful. So we could start there. If not, it's also encouraging them, because we had admitted student day presentations this past Sunday, and one of the students there had said, she just does not like to ask for help. And so for her, it would be encouraging to hear that she's not the only one, right? So again, I don't like to use the word normal, but normalizing that access and help is a natural part of college life. And so I think helping to dispel some of that misperception about who uses it, who needs it, to help to encourage them to use the resources, I think would be a significant part. So assuring them that this is a part of college life, asking for help and accessing those resources. So they're not the only one. So some reassurance there and some guidance.
Thanks, Angie. And it might be actually two more questions now. The next question is for Tara, and some of this was addressed a bit on the Student Health Center slide, but Tara, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about student health insurance and what recommendations or what parents and family members should be thinking about when it comes to student health insurance.
Yes, I'm happy to. So at the Student Health Center, for a student to be seen, we don't bill insurance except for we have an international student health insurance plan, and we bill for a few things. So it's $5 to see a nurse practitioner, and then we have a few things that do cost extra. For example, a strep test is $10, an ACE bandage is $5, those kinds of things. When insurance is really needed is for things like labs, imaging, pharmacy, and if they're getting referred to a specialist off campus. And so that's when, whether they're having insurance through a parent or their own insurance, that it would be used. There is also a lot of questions about Kaiser. And we do have a Kaiser that's within about half a mile of campus. It's straight uphill, so they may want to get a ride from public safety there. but they can register as visiting members at Kaiser and receive care there. And the nurse practitioners in the Student Health Center frequently will send prescriptions to Kaiser. We've sent students with their lab orders to Kaiser as well as imaging, and we haven't had any issues with that. So domestic students aren't required to have insurance, but very, very strongly encouraged, because we definitely don't want something like a broken ankle that they then need physical therapy for that we don't have in the Student Health Center to prevent them from continuing or needing to go home more often than was originally planned.
Thank you, Tara. One question that I'll go ahead and answer is someone asked a question about when the quarter starts. We're on quarters over here, so 3 quarters for a standard academic year plus a summer quarter. For us, fall quarter classes start on Wednesday, September 25th. However, new students to Seattle U, especially those who are living on campus, will arrive on the 21st. And we have a full week of fall welcome, which will welcome our students, make sure that they learn about all of the resources that are available to them during that time. It's a really fun and exciting time on campus. All right, I think the last question I'm gonna ask, well, before that, I'll mention there's a few questions about things like transfer credits, financial aid, AP credits. My recommendation is that folks connect with their admissions counselors, because each student's situation is pretty unique, and it would be challenging for us to answer those questions here. But we understand that there's probably a lot of unique questions here. And so if you're not sure who to connect with to get the response to the questions that you have, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is up on the screen, and I'll get you to the right person. So my last question is for Chris. Chris, there was a question in the Q&A about how we support and engage students who are particularly introverted. And I might extend that question a bit and just say, just ask, how do we just generally try to engage students and get them to try new things, help them to meet other students, and really have that sense of belonging? So it's actually a much bigger question than the one that's in there, but Chris is well prepared to answer it, I'm sure.
Well, thanks for throwing a complicated question at me, James. I think the first thing I would say is recognizing that this is a transition period for your student, and everybody is going to experience some form of transition in terms of their interactions with other folks. You know, the national statistics show that loneliness is a significant issue for college students, but that's largely the product, or it is largely the product of friendships and relationships are the product of shared experience and time. And so they're really resetting their experience. But when we talk about individual students, and this is one of the things I love about Seattle University, is that we do have high attention to individual students. So I'll just give the example of when we live in the residence halls at Seattle University, it's not just that their RA is there, but part of the curricular approach is really engaging with individual students about where they are in their experience, and really paying attention to how they are forming those connections within community. There are lots of opportunities on campus, and my office in particular provides a lot of coaching. I see many students around, you know, sort of feelings of connectedness, and we talk through how do you find your niche community, because that's part of what it's about, is identifying what part of campus and community feels right to you and seems to resonate. And for students who kind of struggle with those, we have a number of different pieces, not just within wellness and health promotion, but across the university. I know our CAPS program does an amazing job working with students on their own personal anxieties, challenges that they're experiencing as well. We in our office run a program called Soaring at Seattle U, which is between a 6 and a 10-week program, depending on whether we do the hour-and-a-half version or hour version. Not that you need to know that, but it equips students with kind of skills-based approach to increasing their resilience and increasing their ability to essentially try new things and explore those challenges. So, and going beyond that, when a student does come up, because we do have a care approach to the university, so it's not uncommon for faculty members to flag the Dean of Students office or my office saying, hey, we have a student that we're a little bit worried about. And myself or other professionals in my office or some of the professionals in residence life will reach out to that student and invite them in to have a conversation and check in and do a little bit of wellness coaching on where they are and what supports and referrals and resources they need. So again, this is something that is very tied to being at a Jesuit school and the ethos that brings with it. And we really do focus on individual attention to students and that kind of approach to giving individual attention and helping find the individual students' community. Hope that answers the question, James.
It does. Thank you. All right, well, we're coming right up on 6 o'clock. It was a full hour of content, maybe too much. So if you have any questions about what we talked about, please let us know. As it says on the slide, we encourage you to reach out to us at any time. And I hope that the information that we shared with you tonight was helpful as you think about Seattle University for your student. And just know that we are here to partner with you in support of your students throughout their journey here with us at the university. So thank you, everybody. Again, if you have additional questions, we encourage you to reach out to your admissions counselor, or you can contact me if you need help getting to the right person. Otherwise, welcome to Seattle U, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Good night.
James, please keep the thing so I can keep it open so I could just copy a few more.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
I think we should maybe send the housing one along with this to all of the folks who participated tonight, so instead of trying to figure it out.
That would be great. Yeah, we'll send that note over to admissions.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, James.
James, I emailed Marta
Thanks.
just so you know. So